So I want to make sure you all hear me. Can you hear me in the back okay? Yes? Well, it's certainly both a great privilege and an honor to be here tonight with all of you. So thank you for coming, and thank you for having me. I've been asked to speak to you all about health and healing. And before I begin, I would like to ask if there are any practicing physicians, surgeons, psychiatrists, psychologists, doctors in the audience with us this evening. Would you please stand up?
How about social workers?
Social workers, please stand up. Ladies and gentlemen, here's your healers. Nurses are next. Yes, nurses. If are you in the audience, I would ask that you please stand up. All of you. Thank you all very much for your choice and your service to the choice. Because sooner or later, most of us, if you haven't already been, will visit a doctor and a nurse. We all have tendencies to become ill or get injured here and wind up in a doctor's office saying, "Ow, I don't feel well. Help me please get back into the game." So the first recognition this evening are all of the physicians that we go see for our healing when we are at absolute demise. They are your healers and the nurses who take what they say from the doctors and make certain that we can return to the game. So thank you all nurses for your choice and your service to the choice. It's with gratitude that I acknowledge all of you. So let's begin on an evening and a journey of what might just change your perception of health and healing. First, let's take a look at who we are and who we are not, and what we are and what we are not. I've been very privileged to come here, and my intention tonight is to enlighten you, to educate you, and to entertain you. I've been blessed with being able to work with a number of wonderful, wonderful, gifted people who brought into this world all sorts of things that I'm going to give you tonight that are principles, formulas, facts, and concepts that when you put into practical application will dramatically improve your perception and your physical health and life. All of which I take zero credit for, because I'm not a pioneer. I created and invented nothing. I'm sharing with you the information, education, and modalities of those who were the pioneers and taught us. So I'll take no credit for this, but just share with you the things that I've been privileged to observe, participate in, and witness afterwards. Very, very, very intelligent people with extremely expensive pieces of equipment over very long periods of time have taught us with degrees in astrophysics, quantum mechanics, that every one of us in this room individually is composed of upwards of 100 trillion cells. Now when I say that, we go, oh, that's a lot. That's more stars than all the Milky Way galaxy. And that's a lot more real estate than from your head to your toes. Each one of your cells can be measured at approximately 1¼ volt. So when you stop and do the math and consider that you contain 100 trillion cells at 1¼ volt, you get a little better idea of when some of the older people say you are very powerful light beings. Now, when you think of how many of us are gathered tonight here in this room, times 100 trillion, we're getting a different kind of perspective of the kind of power and light that we are here in this room. But each and every one of you does not look in the mirror and see the 100 trillion cells that make up the community that is you. You see David's, you see Susan's, I see Dennis. We cannot see the individual cells. We see the entirety. And this gives us an illusion of who we're not. Very, very intelligent people with extremely expensive pieces of equipment over very long periods of time have taught us, well, quantumly, in the quantum mechanical world, when we get real small, below the cell and in the subatomic world, there's what's called a gluon field. And in this gluon field, there's tachyons and there's quarks. And there's all kinds of little funny name things. And what it means for us this evening is that they tell us that there are all endless possibilities of light. Light. As far as we can measure small, we find endless possibilities of light. Interesting. So I want to paint a picture for you. I want you all to imagine that I have a glass table here. And you can see the glass table. And I'm going to put a medium of maybe sand on the table. And I'm going to hook to the table and the glass jumper cables that go to an oscillator machine that merely shakes the table. And I have a rheostat that allows me the opportunity to increase the harmonic resonant frequency that goes into that table so that it will go and so forth. As this harmonic resonant frequency increases, this medium will virtually morph and take shape. Is anybody familiar with this at all? Good. For those who are not, I invite you all to, upon your return home, look up online, harmonic resonant frequency equals form. And you'll see the very demonstration of what I'm trying to narrate to you, and it's very fascinating to see. But all it means for us, in simplicity for now, is that harmonic resonant frequency brings forth shapes and forms. Well, so do your thoughts, your speech and your action. I'll give you a for instance. If I was to put a little puppy in each of your laps, you'd probably get a warm, fuzzy feeling in your heart, and your mouth would show the expression and smile. Your feeling has form, and it manifests in your muscle, and you smile. Anger, not the same. Right? Different form. Okay. Very intelligent people for a long, long time. Very expensive pieces of equipment have taught us that everybody here that is human, 47% of your time, we do what's called mind wandering. You're going to visit the past, you're going to visit the future, and you're going to come back to the present. It's just something we do, 47% of the time. So, if this is accurate, I want you to give some consideration to a few things. This is the work that I read you of a great lady named Alice Miller. Is anybody familiar with Alice Miller's work? Very good. Very good. So I'd like to take a moment and read to you some of the things that she has observed. All this is just a few thousand years of observation. We just observe. And after a while, we have a tendency to write things down. You stick your hand in the fire, we don't have to write it down. But some of the things we need to study and learn so as to not repeat them and learn from them. And this is what Alice Miller had observed about illness. Since this is one of the things that you want to know about, this is very, very important. The mental thoughts and emotional patterns that precipitate most dis-ease in the body are criticism, anger, resentment, guilt, shame, grief, and fear. How is this possible? Well, criticism arises from a feeling of wanting to hands-on control everything, due to, most of the time, a childhood in which such control was critical for acceptance, physical, emotional survival, family protection, general sense of worth, and just quality of life. As we grow up and become mature adults, and we make choices to be overly full of criticism, it starts to affect things like the environmental impact systems, and we have a tendency to attract things that affect our mobility, arthritis. Anger comes from experiencing obstacles in life we feel we can't overcome. So instead of overcoming these obstacles, we choose to blame and attack. And this tends to lead to conditions that emphasize boils, burning fevers, infections, and inflammation. Let's face it, you get angry, you get hot. And we are people that just make acid. We need to alkaline our diets all the time. That's not true? Yes. Okay. So, resentment. Well, resentment is based on a feeling of victimization and powerlessness, and it turns into smoldering fires that fester and turn to diseases and discomforts like tumors. Guilt is anger turned against yourselves. And what happens? Well, most of the time, self-hobbling illnesses like emphysema, herpes, things of this nature. Shame has a shape as well. All of our thoughts, our feelings, and emotions have a shape. Every single thing we do elicits a chemical that manifests into an action or a reaction or a feeling, and everything works in the way of light. We are almost like marionettes to the light. And when we understand more about what is light, the more we get an understanding of what we are and how we operate. So, this moves us to a gentleman who's recently passed. His name was Masaru Emoto. How many are familiar with Masaru Emoto? Oh, that's so wonderful to see. How many have read his books? Good. Masaru Emoto gave us some wonderful, wonderful work. And one of the things I wish to share with you this evening is in one of his books, he brought an experiment for you to do that I would really invite you to do on your own. It's called the rice experiment. For those of you who know it, wonderful. For those of you who don't, I'll explain it to you very quickly. You go to the store, you buy white rice, you make it. You go to the store, you buy 3 identical glass containers, you put the amount identically into the 3 containers. You take a pencil or a pen with your own hand, and you write on a piece of paper, ugly, putrid, horrible, or anything else you prefer, in your own writing, and you tape it facing you on the outside of the glass. You take a pen, pencil, and you write down Snow White, beautiful, and anything very, very, very lovely. And in your own handwriting, you tape it right to the glass. You keep them about this far apart. On the 3rd glass, you leave blank, write nothing on it. Make a commitment to yourselves every day, at least twice a day, to do what it says on the glass. Walk over to the jar that has the nasty, ugly, putrid, rotten, and talk to it that way. You look ugly. I'll never eat you. In fact, you already smell rotten. I don't think you're very healthy. Oh, you're Snow White, you're beautiful. I think you'll stay like this forever. Ignore the 3rd one. What do you think would be the outcome? I mean, rice doesn't have consciousness, right? Water does. here's the end result. The one you talk trash to will turn so rotten, so brown, so full of mold, you won't believe your eyes. Because it sits right next to the one that's pure white. Same rice, same stuff, same time. And you're talking nice to it, and it's just like the day you put it in the jar. And the one that rots the worst of all is the one you ignore. So if that's what it can do to rice, what can you do to a human soul? When you do this experiment with your own eyes, the believability is so big, it causes you to rethink how you speak. Because you can see the evidence in front of you that demands a verdict to change your conscious language.
What was the one that was neglected?
The one that is neglected is the one that rots the worst of all. This experiment is for one reason. What are you marinating in 47% of the time? Am I wondering? Are you the thoughts of fear, worry, hate, envy? What shape do you think they are? They take the shape in your cells that get you to the doctors and the nurses and say, oh, I don't feel good. I can't do this anymore, and I can't stop that, and I'm way excessive this. Make a conscious effort to stay in this, what we call present moment. And when you find yourself mind-wandering, as we're going to do, just check your thoughts and make certain they're bringing a smile to your face. And if they're not, rethink your thoughts. If we are going to mind wander 47% of the time, and we can be responsible for our thoughts, we can guide them to things that make us smile. And there was a wonderful doctor named Patch Adams who proved to the medical world that through laughter, restoration and homeostasis takes place. When you're laughing hysterically, someone comes up and says, "You look like you're pretty sad." It cannot exist. It doesn't. The happier you are, the more filled with joy you are, the healthier you're going to be. So watch what you're marinating in and giving consideration to this 47% of the time. It's huge. It's huge. Now, as we talk about healing, it's a big subject. How many of you in this room are currently under the care of a doctor? Please, just a show of hands. Look at us. All of you, just look at us. It's good that they're here. Continue your care, but pick up your shovels and understand that you must dig for the treasure of your own health. It is not the responsibility of these mechanics that you come to, once they fix us, to sit alongside of you as you continue to drive a car. So, when I say take a shovel and be responsible to dig for the treasure of your health, that means you must be taking action and responsibility into the mental, emotional, spiritual, physical, and financial beings that you are. You are never just one of those in one place at a time. You are multidimensional all the time. So you must then take your own health into your own hands and be responsible. How many of you would put wheels and tires, tint the windows, and put brand new stereos in the other person's truck down the street that you don't own? None of you. Why would you do that? You don't own it. Once you own it, there's pride of ownership, and you want to change it. We usually don't want to take ownership of the things we call illness in our life, or dysfunction, disorder, and in the worst case, dis-ease. But when you take ownership of it, you can then have the rights to find where did it come from, and start to dig away until it becomes found. And it's a wonderful lesson. The body, when it becomes injured, is a great big signal to us. If we are patient and good listeners, it tells us much. It's a great guidance system. One of the reasons I had the privilege of being here is Diane experienced a wonderful transformation in pain. I want to talk to you about that transformation. I'm going to do this tonight with the help of Dr. Bruce Lipton, because he's a friend of mine and he's a great, great, great man. He's one of the world's leading authorities on epigenetics. He's an author, a lecturer, a teacher at Harvard, Princeton, and he's brought many doctors into the world, and he's brilliant. And I've been a worker of his work for 9 years. And it's miraculous. So the best way for me to share his work with you is to combine the findings of a great, 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 great man named Grand Master Choa Kok Sui. This gentleman is a Filipino resident, born Chinese, dedicated his life to what is called pranic healing. I'm here to tell you a little bit about pranic healing tonight and the different modalities of other energy works and some of it of healing. And when I do, I need to go in this fashion so that everybody understands the very basics and simplicities of this work. This is not faith healing. This is a technology. The only faith involved is your faith in the practitioner that's administering it, just like when you go to a physician. So I'm going to combine the teachings of Grand Master Choa Kok Sui with Dr. Bruce Lipton to explain what is the energy work of pranic healing. It goes like this. Would each one of you turn to somebody else and look into their eyes, not at me. Find somebody to look into their eyes. Has everybody made contact with somebody? If we have an uneven number, does everybody see the light in the other person's eye? You know, the one you'd call the reflection from the light that's burning up above. Okay? Everybody look back this way now. We've all experienced this, what you would term reflection. Yes? You're not your body. You're not your mind. You're not your thoughts. You're not your emotions. I'm going to demonstrate. You are the light in your eye. You are the soul. And isn't it very interesting how when that light goes out, we don't do this. The part of you who everyone knows, loves, and adores, that is your character, is not there anymore. And the body, they want to either bury it or burn it in a relatively fair and reasonable period of time. You are made of light. You come from light, and you will return to the light. This light gives the actual life force energy of everything you see that is your physicality. You see the light above, but you don't see the power that drives it. You see this character from California up here animated and talking to you, but you don't see the power that drives it. Yes, you do. You see the light in my eye? That is who you are. Now that light is called in our world energy, because we can't define what is now carbon-7 unless you look at the Nobel Prize winner of who found carbon-7. What is it? or you know the work of very, very intricate Russian scientists who are doing this study on these intricate things that are very hard to reach. So for now, you've heard of chakra. How many have heard the word chakra? Chakra is a Sanskrit word for spinning wheel of light. Ooh, we have that light again. How many ever heard of the study of Kabbalah? The receiving of the light. And what are the Siforot? Eminence of domain, spinning wheels of light. We have light again. Always this light. Well, Dr. Lipton tells us like this. This light, this auric field of energy that gives the life force energy to the body, supports the particle. And it's real simple. Grandmaster Choa has observed over years, with millions of dollars and very, very talented people, the confirmation of Dr. Bruce Lipton's work. How does it work? If I had a piece of paper here in front of you, and I took from the ground a piece of iron, and I started to file, I'd have iron filings. If I put them in a little pepper shaker and I closed my eyes and I sprinkled them random onto the piece of paper, would we have random iron filings, or would we have a cow playing flute, riding a unicycle? Probably random iron filings, yes? Okay. And if we did that 100 times, we'd always have random iron filings. But if I asked one of you to come up here and put a 100 trillion ton magnet under the piece of paper, and I went and sprinkled the iron filings at random, do you think they'd be random anymore? No. They couldn't be. And if you took that magnet and went like this, would they have a choice but to follow the magnet? Probably not if it's a 100 trillion ton magnet, it's just a piece of paper. They'd have to follow it. Your body are the iron filings that come from Mother Earth. And your soul is the field that gives the shape and life force energy to the body. Grandmaster learned over the years that you can influence the chakra system, and it's like moving a magnet. Does the particle have a choice but to heal? Sometimes. Sometimes. Most of the time, not. And so we all get to enjoy this wonderful transformation of cellular lethargy or resonate harmonic frequency that's not right, back to homeostasis and health, happiness, and the cells back to going, thanks. And we say, I have healing. That's amazing. It is a technology. If I showed you up here a glass, and it just started to break, you'd say, wow, that's pretty good. Didn't mean to trick you. Let me bring in the speaker, turn up the sound, and you can see that it's the sound that changed the shape of the glass until it got so deep that the glass couldn't change anymore and it broke. And you'd say, the sound did that. Mm-hmm. So what looks as, oh my God, that's a miracle, when you see what the technology is, you understand. Many things in our world now that are not able to explain are technologies in areas that we do not see. But energy is different. The question has come up many times, all energy is the same, isn't it? No. Alternating current is different than direct current. And that's different than microwave, gamma wave, and MRI. They're not all the same. This energy healing is much like all energy. There is a polarity in our bodies, and there are people who balance that polarity. There is therapeutic touch, and it's the manipulation of that polarity. There is Reiki, and it is very different than that. There's very little you do. You wait, and you're patient, and you're neutral. Very different than what's called Mahikari Nawasa. Comes from Japan. Very different. Very different than pranic healing. All these energy works are very good, but very different. which is why everybody experiences different results from different energies. Some work better than others, some are in timing, some are the administrator, and there's a great difference of results from this work. One of the most important things you can do is to change your perception of the way you think, what you see. And if you do this, all of life will change for the good. As a matter of fact, one of the great Max Planck, how many have heard Max Planck? He's the father of quantum mechanics. And he says this: if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at will change. As a matter of fact, because what you think is matter isn't. And the same goes for health and happiness and your perception while you're walking in the world. If you lose the worry, the fear, the grief, the anxiety, the stress that you think you need to carry with you for whatever reason, it's like cutting parachutes and anvils, and we move lighter through life. Sometimes we need the help of people who specialize in this field other than those who are trained very highly so to administer prescriptions. There is no prescription for this. So don't be angry with the physicians. They're trying their best to give their lives to all of us, to be there in our moment of need. And they are. But it's in between the time that we're visiting the physician and the nurses that we're in our own care. And you must be responsible for your thoughts, your speech, and your action. And then there's the environment. On a non-physical level, I would say this for your health. Make a concerted effort to not live in your past nor your future. Try to remain present. And when we go off into these dimensions of future and past, always be in control of your thoughts. Don't let them grip you. Stay as present as you can. Have no regrets for your past. Have an attitude of gratitude for the now. And face this thing called your future with virtually no fear. None. Every person in your life and my life, every person that has ever caused you any pain, anger, embarrassment, humiliation, fear, resentment, you can thank them. They're your greatest teachers for now, who know what you will never say to somebody because of how much it hurts. You'll know what you should say in the moment when they need to be said, what you didn't and withheld. And you'll know when you need to do the things because you've been taught how it feels. And in that way, everyone who's brought you anything that's caused discomfort have been your greatest teachers. And you can thank them for your greatest lessons. For surely now you won't repeat them. You wouldn't learn them any other way. So as you look to your left and you look to your right, you have no predators. Only teachers. Only people to thank. Why then do you hold anger, resentment, grief, shame, guilt, and fear in the body? It's perception. We just need to alter our perception, and we can get the cell to bounce right back and go, wow, health. I'm going to read an invocation from Grand Master, and I'm going to alter the end of it just a little bit. And so as to not disrespect my teacher, it's for the purpose of a greater understanding and less of a division. I am the soul. I am not the body. I am not the emotion. I am not the thought. I am not the mind. The mind is just a subtle instrument of the soul. I am the soul. I am a spiritual being of divine intelligence, divine love, and divine power. I am one with my higher soul. I am that. I am. I am one with the divine spark within me. I am a child of the light. I am connected with the light. I am one with the light. I am one with all. You are all beings of love and light. At this point in time, I'm going to open up the rest of this for your questions. And the reason I shortened this is because I thought you'd be more curious than I am anxious to go on. So I'd like the privilege of answering the various questions that you would have. So I will ask you, please, any questions at all regarding, open, anything. Yes, ma'am.
Where's the microphone?
I'm going to repeat the question so you all can hear. Or would you like the microphone? Good.
Hi, thank you so much. I'm curious, you say there's some sense that our thoughts affect our health and our well-being, but I'm curious about children who, infants who probably, I don't know how it works, but infants who are born with a disease, or what happens there?
Infants that are born with less than what you and I would term, you see, here's the first mistake. We have a word that's going to come out. You all know what it is, don't you? Go ahead, say it.
Normal.
Thank you. We're going to start a measurement. Barometer. Oh, I'll give you a question this way. I'm going to, did everybody hear the question? Okay. The best way I feel, and I choose to answer this question, is a very deep question. We all would like to know why this one, that, this time, and how come. It's bigger than that. The best way for me to answer it is like this. I too had once a question, and I'll be vulnerable now in front of all of you. Vulnerability is good. Many years, much work, much results. I go to the Grandmaster. I walk into a restaurant. I see a child, probably with cerebral palsy, twisted up like a pretzel in a special thing, and the mother caring for this child. Like you can just imagine. And I said to the Grandmaster, why is it that I cannot raise my hand and restore this child? Oh, so you want to be like Christ, do you? I said, yes, I got my hand up. He said, they'll come in after him. Agreed to this. I'm in. Put me in. Why not? He says, Dennis, it goes like this. What your eye sees is an illusion. And you don't understand the fullness. So let's just suppose the child with cerebral palsy was an officer in Auschwitz who murdered, raped, and beat this child's entire family year after year, and all she wanted to do was kill him. What better way do you think the life would have it to return them both and give unconditional love, one for the other? And you want to just wave your hand so they can get on a bicycle and ride away and have fun? It doesn't go like that. But you still lift your heart and your hand and do the work. And the chances are it will do the work in the soul, not the physical particle that you choose to want to see different. Thank you, Grandmaster. When you ask me why a child comes into the world with something that is other than what you and I would term normal, I am not able to answer that question. But whatever your heart guides, you do the service. You understand?
Thank you.
I'm going to give you a microphone.
I have a brain injury, and it happened from somebody else doing this to me. I hate to put it that way, but, you know, it cause and effect, right? And so it's permanent as of now. And everything they've tried hasn't helped. In fact, it's getting worse, and I've been diagnosed with Alzheimer's and all the other things going on. And I'm just wondering, you know, I always want to say, why is this happening, and get into that, but I also think to myself, this is a lot of, I don't want to sound suffering, but there's a lot I'm going through constantly, and I don't want to be poor me, but I just don't understand why I'm not getting better. And as you're talking, I'm understanding, but I don't totally have a grasp. Maybe you could put some light on the subject of this.
When we are stricken with anything less than joy, abundance, happiness, lots of money, we question. You never seem to question when you get tickets to go to Hawaii. You don't question when there's a lot of money in the bank. And then we question when there's lack or pain or suffering. Is to grow. We come here to grow in adversity. You see, if you spent your life at 90-degree temperature, eating all the wonderful grapes, listening to wonderful music, you'd never want to leave the environment, yes? Why do you suppose you left heaven? To grow in love. That you can grow only in adversity. It's growing your character. It's not your body. And my question to you would be, if I may be so bold in front of all these folks, I'll ask a question. Would you all first take a moment in your hearts, not your heads? What is your name?
Cindy.
Would you vote for Cindy's victory now? And her healing. Just take a space in your heart and vote for her victory. This individual who has caused this in your life, have you forgiven them? Are you on my schedule? Yes.
I'm sorry? Yes.
Yes. We'll do the work, and better you'll get. Do you want to get better?
Oh, yes.
Do you believe me?
I'm sorry.
Do you believe me?
Totally.
And totally in full faith.
Yes, I do.
Watch this. Next question, please.
You spoke a lot about the light. I did some aura studies with Barbara Martin, and I was just wondering, she talks a lot about colors. Is that at all involved in pranic healing? Color of the light?
I'm a certified instructor for pranic healing and teach doctors and nurses all over. Now isn't a good time, but I'm going to answer the question appropriately. Yes, ma'am. Color in your world is much like sound. It brings forth things. I'll share some with you. Part of the work in Grand Master Choa's work was the privilege of traveling with 5 very, very blessed clairvoyant people who could see energy. And all they did was observe and write. Some of the observations and writings I'll share with you tonight. Every color of the rainbow does something specific. It has a purpose. I'll share some with you. Green. What does green do? Green chops up diseased, dead cells and starts cellular regeneration. It takes contamination and regenerates it. What do you breathe in? What do you breathe out?
Carbon dioxide.
Will it kill you dead? Thank you. What color are the trees? And the plants? And the lawn? What do? They transform this carbon what? Into what? So we can live? What color is it? Now, what color is coffee? What color is a brown muffin? What happens when you eat 2 brown muffins, drink 4 cups of coffee, and caught in traffic? Okay. When we eat certain foods, breathe certain things, they turn to prana. When you create orange prana, it expels and eliminates from the bladder and the colon. Isn't it interesting how you're all willing to get in a car, travel 70, 60, 75, some of us even faster, with somebody coming right at you the same speed, and then all that's in between is an orange line. You take that orange line away, and you go 60, 70 miles an hour at each other, and see how comfortable you feel. Trusting that that individual isn't going to come over what is the line that isn't even there. Now, do you want to know why all the little ladies like yellow houses? How many like yellow houses?
The exterior or interior?
You like yellow. Yellow is cementing. It's cellular regenerating. It means growth and stability. So you like the house and your family yellow. How many of you like pink? Pink is the color of love, and you want to wear it on your body and on your nails and close to your heart. So every color of the rainbow isn't just what your eye sees as color. It is a harmonic resonant frequency, a mathematical equation, and it's doing something in your world always to you. You decide what you want to wear in the closet, not on what's clean and hanging there, but based on a chakra that says, oh, pick this, it's blue, and we got to do this today. Or we need red because we need the base chakra turned way up for all the power we're going to need to do the physical work. And you don't even know what's going on. You're just a marionette going through it. You go, I don't want to get red, I was going to get blue. I felt like a taco today and I had pizza. It's all in the light world. And then we just respond to it in the physical particle world. But it goes like this. Each and every one of you like hamburgers? Raise your hand. Okay, so when you want a hamburger, you don't fight with yourself and go, should I go to In-N-Out? Should I go to Wendy's? Should I go to McDonald's? Should I go to Burger King? You all know where you want to go for your hamburgers, yes? And you get in the car, you go there. You wait, you park. You have to get in, then you stand in line, you wait to place your order, then you go sit down, and then they bring you the order. And when you start eating, you don't start screaming, hey, I have nothing to do with this. Who ordered this food? Putting this in my face? Right? We're all responsible for that. Because you made the conscious choice to go and what to go and what to eat. You did the same for all the rest of it. It just doesn't look like that way. There's a time delay. Which is why these blessed stories of people that have gone to the other side and returned have this in their heart. Man, I wanted to return to correct the little things that appeared to be the biggest things in my life. I wanted to come back just to say I'm sorry. I wanted to come back to never do that again. I wanted to come back to correct every little thing that was so paramount. You see, it's the little things that we say, think, and do that are the biggest things in your life. So, put your heart into living consciously. Be slow with your speech. Choose the things you're going to say, and ask first, is this going to be edifying? Is it going to uplift them? Is it going to be good for them to hear this, or am I going to hurt them? And remember the rice. What can your words do to rice? If you saw what your words can do to rice, you'll change your words to your brothers and sisters here. We use the term brothers and sisters. You know, I want to put an end to this brother and sister thing right now. How many really do believe in a creator? Okay, well then you have to believe that when this whole thing started, there was just two. And we procreated our way to this. Yeah, that's right. We procreated our way to the billions on the planet. So it's real hard for me to look way into China and say, oh, that's my brother over there. But we are. And when you see the Elohim from the Adonai changed. There's no plural and singular. In the dimension in your body, there it is. But outside the body, there's this oneness that we all talk about. So it's a difficult dichotomy while we're here in this separation of 100 trillion cells. We don't really get the true picture. And then when you put on top of it, truly, all of our education here in the system of the United States of America, we're not really taught the truth of who we are, what we are, and what we're doing here. You're taught how to become good consumers. So I'm going to ask you, do you think you all really came here to be good consumers? It's funny, isn't it? Yes. We all came here to love one another, to improve our skills, to nurture and take care of one another. So I would ask you, now that you know these little tiny things, you can make a big difference in the health, just in your perception. And the things that you've been carrying around all your life that you think are important, that if you just let go, would a weight be lifted from you, and a healing would take place in your body, and you'd feel lighter and happier. And those of us who facilitate this healing are not healers. We're facilitators, and there's many different types of facilitation. Any other questions? Next.
You had brought up, you said you want to be Jesus and, heal people.
Doesn't everybody want to be Christ-like in this room? Who does not? Raise your hand. Yeah, you wouldn't say that in front of him, would you? Yes, sir, I am one of those.
Training in the Grand Master, how would he look at Jesus as healing? Was that pranic healing or something different? How does he conceive that?
Through the Essenes. Yehoshua was raised by the Essene people. These are the people who study the Zohar, the Tanakh, and Kabbalah. Kabbalah is the receiving of the light. This individual, who you and I know as Yehoshua, or Jesus, was taught Kabbalah. And how did he heal? With love and light. You want to know how it works, sir? Energy follows intention. Energy follows intention. When you want to pray, do you look at your watch and go, oh, wait, better wait till tomorrow. It's not going to get there today. No. There's no time, no space outside your continuum in the body, so you know that. And you also know that it's quantum-like, so you lift your voice and you pray in full faith. Well, energy follows intention. How do you get frequency modulation and ambient modulation and television? How do they send that stuff through the air and it comes into your house? Do you know how that works? I do. Next question.
Michael, this woman here.
This lady right here.
Yes, thank you so much. This feels somehow important. I have had chronic sinus trouble for all my life. I was hospitalized at Mayo Clinic as a baby with eczema, and I have terrible allergies. I get flu a lot. I've worked with everybody. I've had all kinds of healings. I've prayed over it. I breathe in the white light when I'm walking, and I have been on a spiritual path for a really long time. And I have two personalities, the one that can't do very much because I feel like I've got terrible flu, and the other one who's out doing as much good as I can, and I'm very joyful. And I miss that other woman who can't always seem to be well.
Can you bring them both to me?
Can I bring them both to you? Absolutely.
This is good.
What do you mean?
I mean, can you bring them both to me?
Oh, yes, yes, absolutely.
Yes. This is not the time and the place, but
Okay.
yes, I can answer your questions and will make some sense to them. both in the energy world, etherically, and the particle world.
Yes.
There's just a lot to go through. Some talking, some pranic healing. You've heard the expression awareness heals? You've heard of Greg Braden, good friend of mine, Greg Braden, great author, intelligent individual, worked for Cisco Systems for years. He wrote many books. One of his great books is The Spontaneous Belief, The Spontaneous Healing of Belief, or The Spontaneous Belief. The instant belief in spontaneous healing. It's really weird, but that's it. The instant belief in spontaneous, or the instant healing in spontaneous belief. That's it. The instant believing in the instant healing in spontaneous belief. Very, very, very. He wrote the God Code. He's written a lot of things. Very, 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 very great contributor. Greg Braden. Yes.
May I make an appointment somehow with you? I understand
Yes.
your schedule's full. I'll talk to you later.
I just want to know, what is the difference between all the different energies with the pranic and the Reiki?
Well, that question is very, very, very generic when you say, what's the difference? I actually can't give you a mathematical equation of harmonic resonant frequency, but the difference is this. In pranic healing, we're working specifically with the chakra system, and we work with a cookbook recipe that's been given to us. So we simply follow it. The other energy modalities that I am comfortable with, familiar with, and use in application are very, very, very different. And they all are very effective. But for me, I'm probably like most of you here. When somebody comes to me, I want the results like they want the results, right away. And so I have found, for myself, pranic healing is the most extreme application for the most wide variety of results, from physical to addictions, phobias, as far off as you can go. I'll give you some examples if you choose. Okay. A surgeon sends me his client. What is a surgeon sending his client to me for? He has leg pain. Okay. We'll do leg pain. But why is your surgeon sending you here to me for leg pain? Well, he won't administer any more hydrocodone to me. It's been 18 years, he amputated my leg. Oh. Well, the auric field is still there. They call this phantom pain. Now, all of you here have, at some point in time, growing up as a child, stepped on a sticker, maybe a lit cigarette, and some fresh dog do. And we can all remember what that's like. Well, if they took your foot off, would you still have the memory? Okay, so if you have this huge, terrible trauma of a forklift running over you 6 times and crushing you into pieces, and the doctor takes your leg off, it doesn't always mean the pain's going to go away. Just like when they remove an organ out of the body, it doesn't always mean that you're not going to have any problem anymore with that organ. That field is still there. I'll give you another one and then I'll get another question. I went to school with a lady, who was a nurse. I'll shorten it. I get a call at 2 o'clock in the morning. Could you come to Los Angeles? It's only a 2.5-hour ride. Nobody's here to pay you. And if you get here at 3:15, come to the entrance where the laundry is, because there's no camera there. And we have to have you out by 5. Okay. Well, what am I coming for? We have a little girl who has burns, and she's infected, and in 9 hours they're going to amputate both arms if they can't stop it. They would never have a wacko like you come in here swinging a crystal, wearing a silver robe, Hebrew and all. They're not going to have it. Would you come? Yeah, I'll be there. I go. What do you think I get? I get a call in January. She's riding her bike for Christmas. When I go in extreme places to extreme It's very effective for all things.
Yeah, I was wondering, for a while I did, for about two and a half years, I did what we call medical Qigong.
Yes.
You know, you're working with
Here comes the microphone.
where you're working with the Dantian and
For 2 years, this individual's worked with what's called medical Qigong.
and that's the movement of energy through the chakras in the hands, the feet, and so on. You know, outside of working with the basic 7 and then the others. I just wondered if your experience doing what you do in pranic healing is similar, or you know, because there was a great deal of movement with what I was doing.
Not having been privileged to be taught by the founders of this method, but I'm familiar with watching it. I don't know what in their mind they're administering. I only see the outcome. So really, truly, I can't answer if it's the same. I can only say that, in the energy world, we're looking for the restoration of cells, and we're working like a physician would in every sector of whether it's neurological or muscular or skeletal, so that the application would be specific to that. Now, in pranic healing, there's applications for moral, for bone, for ocular, for neurological, but a medical Qigong, he may know intuitively or be taught something to do to clear a pathway. So really, I'm unequipped to answer that. I just know that it's the work of Qi that is cleared through what would be either a malfunction, or a non-properly working something. That what we call Qi can restore this. Now, you're asking me, is it the same Qi? All Qi, or all forces that bring restoration to life, is from the light.
At what vibration?
Oh, you and I have no conception of vibration like this. It's not measurable. We only have equipment that measures the things that relate to our physical particles and the things of our world, not of this world. Next question.
Just a question. Last year I had prostate cancer, heart attack, and a stroke. And I was just wondering, if I follow the diet that they say, it doesn't bring me any pleasure. In fact, it's actually punishment in a lot of ways. And to me, to have an ice cream cone once in a while, that makes me feel good. It makes me, or to have something like that that's off the list. I can't see how that's bad.
The joy overrides the cholesterol.
Yeah. Really? Yeah, and the cancer. You know, I mean, it was just, cancer was Agent Orange. It's already been proven. It's just the idea of, I don't understand, you know, when you were talking about Western and Eastern religion, when I used to go to my secret, he's too old now, but he used to do healing on me with acupuncture and open up channels that were hurting. And where the doctors at the VA wanted to operate on my prostate years ago, he opened it up where I could go normally after 2 treatments without any medication, without anything. So I'm just curious of how much in healing does it count for a person's attitude and how they feel.
A tremendous amount. However, in the holistic field, when somebody tells me about heart, colon, I'm one of these funny guys that really spend a lot of time with doctors. I mean, I've had so many people have gallbladders removed and heart surgeries. I've just got people in hospitals all the time. I'm not the typical holistic health practitioner that says stay away from a doctor. I'm the guy who's going to send you one. So somebody who tells me you've had bypass surgery, the purpose behind your watching your dairy intake is that you should not eat dairy at all ever again. No cow, no moose for you. Now, let me tell you all something. If you know, great. If you don't, know it now. The great myth of vegetation or cannibalism, or whether I should eat meat or not, is very simple. What temperature are you? Now go home and do the research of what the temperature is of a chicken and a pork piggy, or a hog, or a cow, or a goat, or a lamb, or anything else you think you'd like to eat. It's simple. They run hotter than us. And your body won't melt the fats. And eventually it'll kill us dead. It may take 60 or 70 years, but that's the deal. Whatever is cold, colder than us, is good. Whatever's hotter, probably not so good. And eventually it'll take some time. Now, specifically cardiovascular-wise, this issue of cholesterol goes like this. Cholesterol, they have found, the higher the cholesterol, the longer people live. What? Why do they want to lower cholesterol? When it oxidizes, it turns hard, like plaque. And your tissues, your food organs, hollow, like intestines and arteries, vessels, veins, hollow, they're always pliable and moving. So if this plaque hardens and this cholesterol moves, breaks off, you have myocardial infarction. You shouldn't be having any dairy anymore. If you like ice cream, find something else that's cold, that's not a dairy product, maybe coconut, something else, and enjoy it.
Okay.
And with great joy, knowing this isn't going to compromise my thoughts or my arteries, but the others will.
Okay.
Unless you eat so much vitamin E that you comes out your pores and people say, what are you doing? I'm trying to save my heart. In moderation. So find an alternative to your perception where you can have cold, creamy, delicious, and no effects. But you should not be eating more.
No,
Coconut ice cream is delicious.
no.
Coconut milk ice cream.
Oh, shit.
Thank you. I was wondering if you could speak about memory problems, Alzheimer's, and I mean, myself, I just feel like I've never had a really good memory, and then there's some people who have like super memories, and also about addiction.
Okay, I'll be brief and quick. First question, rather than addiction. Memory. This is a difficult one for you to get. Your memory isn't in your head. I apologize. It's not in your brain. It's in the field, in what you call, or have heard, Akashic records. Alzheimer's is the oxidation. Look, you cut an avocado, and you come back in a half hour, you see the free radical damage. You sprinkle lemon juice on the other half, and it's not there so fast. It'll eventually come, because the bioflavonoids slow the process down, but eventually this oxidation takes place. You drink anything with CO2. Let's just stop for a second and say, okay, I breathe out CO2. Why would I want to pour that in my throat? Every time I breathe out CO2, it's to stay alive, and I'm pouring CO2 down my throat. If you saw what CO2 does, whether it's water or soda pop, it's creating free radical damage. It affects your toes, your ankles, your knees, your wrists, everything that goes like this. And feel this, feel your ear. This is cartilage, this is what's in between your spine. This is your discus material. Okay, and it starts like 7-Up, just eroding it. So there's your arthritic conditions. You've got free radical damage. You've got bubbling going on, taking care of all this soft cartilage, and before you know it, you have a condition. And it goes like it happens frequently, and it happens all the time. Boy, it's chronic. Now it's acute. So the memory is not in your mind. So things that you can do now to prevent this from happening in the future is avoid iceberg lettuce. That's the big ball lettuce. If you never eat iceberg lettuce again, you'd be your friend. Every other kind of lettuce is great, but iceberg lettuce releases a tremendous amount of free radicals into your body. Okay? Iceberg lettuce, anything carbonated, sugared, rots your pineal gland. So this helps the memory. Now, If you're currently experiencing these problems and you want help, pecnogenol. It's a maritime pine grown in France. It has the only thing known to pass the blood-brain barrier. There's a pericardium around the heart, and there's a pericardium around the brain. Pecnogenol. It's something grown in France. It's a maritime pine. It helps.
What is it? I didn't quite.
It's an antioxidant.
Pecnogenol.
It's a pecnogenol. It's an antioxidant. Much like ginkgo biloba, it's had a lot of effect on people. And contingent upon how long, how severe, and all other things will determine how much you can restore this. And then when you do take in these suggestions of what to avoid and what to start ingesting, as soon as you start to feel better and notice something, start to work them. Start to work it. Your muscle, your memory. Okay? And it has a tendency to take like a light switch that oxidizes, and then you take sandpaper, go like this, and it has a better connection. That's what it's doing to your brain to reach all this material that's there for you. And they found this accidentally through Jill Bolte Taylor on TED. She's a neuroscientist, Harvard University, had a stroke, and she was one of the greatest contributors to this. Jill Bolte Taylor.
Do you know how to spell that?
Pecnogenol? No.
P-Y.
If you just try it, the internet will tell you, this is it.
I can spell it. It's P-Y-C-O-N-G-E-N-O-L.
I'm sorry, would you spell it?
P-Y-C-N-O-G-E-N-O-L. Pecnogenol.
What about the addiction part of the question?
Okay, I didn't answer the addiction part. Oh boy. Okay. This is in the chakra system. This is why physicians cannot see it. It's difficult to treat addiction. It goes like this. Bless you. Addiction. Addiction resides in just a few places. It resides in your throat chakra. It resides in your solar plexus chakra. You have one front and one back. Other places too, but mostly there. Addiction has no friends, and it has no favorites. It's treated through the chakra system with tremendous results. How tremendous? I've had 100% results. But I will watch what I do. I'll give you a practical application that you all can understand. I'm going to make it real basic so that we don't get too sophisticated spiritually, okay? The throat chakra is tied to the sex chakra. The sex chakra does not mean your sexual organs. Each chakra stands off the body 6 to 8 inches. Nothing is attached to the body. Okay, here goes the application. Throat chakra is the place for higher creativity. Have you ever noticed when we take children through what's called, let's just use this for now, schools, parochial schools. They're taught what to wear, what to say, what to do, what not to do, right? Very proper in terms of the world in relation to spirituality, yes? Have you all noticed how these very disciplined boys and girls get out of school and they're the first ones pregnant, experimenting with drugs and alcohol? Yes? Yeah. Okay. Sex chakra tied to the throat chakra. Have you ever noticed in politics that politicians with big responsibilities and big voices to lots of people are always not monogamous? They're always playing around and getting caught. People where I come from in California and Hollywood, they can't stay together. And have you ever noticed how it's public? They just can't see. Okay? rock stars, people playing music on stage with big messages to lots of people, always playing sexually, like what's going on here? These two chakras are tied together. We even have the saying, still water runs deep. It's interesting that when you try to contain these, they want out. So addiction goes like this. I'll give you just a few examples. Patient. Hi. How are you? Oh, not so good. Okay. What's bothering you? Listen, son. I'm a very successful man. I've been a pastor of my church for 47 years. I've raised 4 children, 3 of which are paid for through college, and I own my home outright. But I can't get off pornography, and I just gambled my last 3 checks away, and I can't go home and tell my wife. When these chakras are curious, they will invite you in, and you'll be exposed to your curiosity. And if you're, in turn, more curious, you'll satisfy that curiosity more. And all of a sudden you have an entity, and you say, I don't know what it is, but the tail seems to be wagging the dog, and I just can't stop this, and it's not like me. It's in the chakra. Now, I can't get deeper and explain because that gets into the teaching of what is pranic healing. But there are webs behind the chakra, like a shutter for your protection. These webs have holes and cracks, and we need to go in and surgically fix them and remove these things. We do this with crystal. Sometimes quartz, sometimes selenite. Each crystal has different harmonic resonant frequencies, and we do surgery on chakra. Okay? And everybody's healed. Hey, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. Smokers, I can't fly over water. My husband's going to leave me. He's retiring in 3 weeks. He says, if I can't fix this, we're done. Because he's traveling the world. He's gone. I can't fly. Listen, I'm the guy that would jump out of a 40-story building at full speed if I saw a spider in the corner, and I'd be happy to get out the window. Really? Oh, yeah. Phobia, addiction, same. In chakra. Your throat chakra is in great, great, great excess motion if your mind won't leave you alone. You're just constantly running my mind. I can't stop my mind. It won't leave me alone. Throat chakra. We uncongest the throat chakra, slow it down, shrink it. It gets calm. Its personality goes. So what do you want to do? So addiction and phobia is in the character of chakra. If you can't see that, how are you going to extract it? Even Grandmaster didn't see it. He had to employ 5 different people to say, what do you see? What do you see? Oh, I don't see anything. They see. You don't? No, what do you see? It's completely different. Write it down. And then he just compared all the things they saw. So, if that helps you, the fastest way I've ever seen in my life, and I've worked with a lady named Dr. Carol Cole. She's the USC professor. This is how we got together. For 8 years. And we do love workshops together, and I created a program called GPS, Gifts to Protect and Project Your Soul. And we work in tandem with 3. I would be less than honest to say that we've had miraculous, of biblical proportion results from all sorts of phobias and addictions. She would have the records. I can say no. Grandmaster Choa. Light. And now they're doing light therapy. Yes. They're doing sound therapy. Endometriosis. They put a little thing in there for you. Bang. Been doing it for years. It's frequency. You first have to believe in it. Otherwise, if you don't believe in it, boom. Somebody says, I don't believe in electricity. Put your finger in the socket. You want 2 pennies or you want 1 pen? You want an NDE or just want to experience a little low electricity? Next question.
I was wondering, I see that.
1 second, please. This lady has the mic. I'll bring it back to you.
I'm sorry. And
feel free to cut this up short if you need to. Maybe it's a rather broad question. I have nothing but great respect for all of your learning and your education and your knowledge and your passion and the masters that you sought out. And obviously this has taken decades, I'm sure, if not your lifetime of learning. But my question is, aside from just the general get your sleep, hydrate, eat well, what can I do for myself to help myself if I don't have access to all of the teachings and the people who facilitate the healings? Books, meditation, intent. I mean, do you have a suggestion?
Love yourself more than you do. Want for nothing. Do you know what want is? Want is the desire of that which you do not have. Yes, it's not likely you would want a convertible Jag if you had one in the garage. It's not likely you'd want to have $500,000 if you had 10 million in another bank. So no matter what it is you want or desire, it is that which you currently do not have. Yes? Think again now. If want is the energy of desiring that which you do not have, why then do you command want into your life? It separates you and keeps you. When your mind says, I want more love, I want more respect, I want more time, I want more money, you get it. You get stuck in a place of desiring that which you don't have, and then you wonder, why don't I get what I want? You've set yourself up in a cul-de-sac of confusion. You shall not want for anything. Because want is the energy of that which you do not have. So when you desire to want, you set yourself in a place of desiring that which you do not have. And your frustration begins because you do not get what you want. Stop wanting.
Gratitude.
It seems like you spent quite a bit of your time investing in your life in this healing, facilitating the healings and of this modalities. I'm just wondering, what spurred you inside of you that prompted you to want to do this as your life work?
I came in this way.
At 10 or 5?
I came in this way. I was the little boy you teased in school. I was the weird one. I was the little child you used to probably tease at school. I was the weird one. I came into the world wondering. I'll give you an example. I'm in school like you. The teacher's teaching us how to spell this word impossible. I asked the teacher, I've heard a few times that that doesn't exist. She said, well, no, that really doesn't. There's highly improbable. But that word says, I'm possible, and you're trying to teach me something that doesn't exist, that doesn't even say that. Let's try something else, teacher. She says, yeah, you go to the principal's office. I couldn't even learn the word impossible because I looked at it and said, I'm possible. I didn't do real well. I never took a test. I was a very rebellious young child. I was wondering, what am I going to do down here when all these adults are trying to teach me things that are lies that they believe are true? I'm not going to be like this. Well, now what am I going to do? How do I get here? And what am I going to do? I'm all by myself down here. Linear learning didn't work for me. It was just a constant illusion. Nothing seemed the truth, and no one could give me an honest answer to everything they thought and believed in and worked their whole life for, because there is no truth to it. And they all say, just don't question it. Oops. Does that answer your question?
If we do the
I'm not in California and I want to visit a pranic healer, how do you find a good one?
You can go online to either Pranic Applications or pranichealing.com, and you can find a list of certified pranic healers in your area. They're all over the world. All over the world. I don't know that you could go anywhere and not find one anymore.
What if we wanted to see you?
Come to California.
Yeah.
I'll come back.
Can you do phone calls?
Yes, this work is offered for those who are willing to accept it distantly, much like FM radio. If you don't want to listen to rock and roll, you can go to country, or you can go to jazz, or you can go to opera.
You can do it distance.
The distal work is done as well. I do need a photograph of you, and we'll have a lot of conversation. But we can do the work whether I'm in California and you're here. Now, to substantiate this is a very big step in faith, in leap of belief. So I want to substantiate it by Dr. Griesler. Has anybody ever heard of entanglement?
Entanglement?
Yep.
Yes.
Anybody not? Raise your hand. Good. I'll tell you real quick what it is. Very, very intelligent people with very expensive equipment divided a cell and took it to two opposite places far, far away, and they observed it. And they both basically got on the telephone and communicated and said, okay, are you near the cell? Yeah, we're near the cell. We are too. We're getting ready to tickle it. You ready? Yeah, watch it. And before they could even get to it and tickled it, the other one started giggling. They said on the phone, this can't be. This cannot be. We got to try this again. So they did it over and over and over, repeatedly, all over the place, with different people all the time, because they were afraid the observation would have collapsed the wave. If you don't know what that is, come to the church tomorrow. I'll explain it. I'm going to demonstrate quantum physics right before your eyes.
All right.
Okay? Now, this entanglement is because of the field that you and I exist in, of which there's no time nor space. It's how prayer works. No time nor space. It's instant. And it's called entanglement. And it is not a theory. It's an absolute. Based on entanglement, we can do distal work because energy follows attention. If I know what I'm dealing with, and I know what I'm dealing with, and I know precisely what you look like and feel and sound like, I can do the same thing here as I can distally. Now, if you don't have the faith to receive it, it's like me trying to send you a song and you got the radio off. Did you hear it? Did you get it? It's a two-way communication. So yes, I can still be of service.
I've studied a little bit about different types of healings, and I've done Reiki and things like that, so I don't know too much about the pranic healing. It sounds really interesting. And one of the things that you said about the woman with the handicapped son, obviously you were talking about karma, correct, right, and reincarnation. So I was hit by a car last June, and I'm having a problem like fully recovering, and I've always been an uncoordinated person. I couldn't walk till I was 2. So everything seems to be kind of worse now. And I don't know if you have any more appointments, but I would love to get on your schedule if it's possible while you're here.
I have to see Diane, but if there isn't room now, we could do whatever, the distance, if you would like.
What church are you speaking at tomorrow?
I don't know.
Dennis will be speaking tomorrow at the Church of the Spirit, 2651 North Central Park near Logan Square in Chicago at the 10:30 service. If you still want to have your name on the list, we have about 50 people on the wait list, but you can add your name to it. You can be last, if I get a last minute call, I go through the list. I start at the top, and it can be 20, 30 down the list before I find somebody who answers their phone and can do it. They all have other things to do, so it can be pretty far down, and you can still get a call if somebody cancels. But there's that if, because not many people cancel when they have an opportunity like this. So
But if you want to be on the list, email me, and I'll put your name on the list in order that I receive the requests. docflute@aol.com, docflute@aol.com.
Does anybody have any more questions, or are we all done?
There's 1 hour and 31 minutes. Do we have time?
Probably not. It's time to stop.
There was one question.